HCPSS gives out 3 POC tests and 2 or 3 MAP tests each year. It consumes many hours of instruction time. How are your views on this standardized test?
Actually, Howard County is probably one of the lowest testing counties in the state. We did do a review and we got the data across the state. We actually had to submit our data to the state because there was a committee that was looking at testing, and ours was one of the lowest in terms of testing. The park is still in an evaluation period, and it's being looked at the state and federal level, and I'm not sure which direction that goes. I don't necessarily support testing for no reason. I do think that parents, to a certain extent, need to know where their child is and have an assessment that's of value, that is going to give direction to the student, to the teacher, and to the parent. And I think what we've been doing with MAP testing, although any implementation of any new program is always challenging, has kinks and needs to be worked out, but I think the value that the MAP testing does give is important, because the way it tests it gives feedback to the teacher so that they can readjust their curriculum for that student in terms of where they need to be. And I think that is in itself will help us also in terms of eliminating achievement gaps.
Now, the MAP test was designed to measure progress of each student, and it's designed for teachers to know where the strengths and weaknesses of the students. Mm-hmm. But when I asked my teachers in my daughter's school, and a lot of them don't know how to use the MAP test to guide them through their class instruction. So I don't know whether it's a training problem. The school plans to provide them more training, or it's the design of the map really cannot serve the purpose.
All right, I think that if that's the issue, then we need to take that back to our central office and let them know that that's going on. I know there is professional development for the teachers that's going on. I don't know the exact plan and how they're rolling all of that out, but there has been professional development and ongoing professional development in terms of the teachers' ability to use the test and use it effectively. So I think yes, training and using a tool correctly is absolutely important when it comes to our students' success. So I'll take that back and look at that.
Okay.
So I have another question. It's not from the list. So I think during this primary election, and a lot of community members think the school board actually too cozy with the staff or Dr. Fuchs, right? Said it's got a rubber stamp, anything she requests, and then basically the board approves that. A lot of people have complained on that. How do you feel that?
Well, I think our governance, the board's governance is, and we hired the superintendent to do a certain job and certain task, and we expect the superintendent to bring back policies or initiatives that we want to move forward for all our students to have academic success. So when we the way our governance works in terms of policy, and that's the most, policy and budget are two of the most important issues that the board has to govern itself. And when we have a policy committee that's formed and involves a community of stakeholders, they bring back their guidelines to the superintendent. We expect that the superintendent bring a policy that reflects all the needs, and we would hope that we would say yes to that policy. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we need to tweak it and make changes. So I think we had set certain goals and expectations of the superintendent, She's met them. We reevaluate every year and set new goals, and based on what the feedback has been, within the community and within what's happened in terms of academic progress for our students.
So besides the BOE board, right? So we can see there are two groups. Sometimes vote 5 to 7, 5 to 4, 5 to 2, or 4 to 3. How do you actually think about the way to improve the efficiency of the board?
Well, I think every board member, has been elected there to represent the community, and I think you take, the information that's, provided by staff and the superintendent. You take the information that you hear from your community, and you take your own knowledge and you do your own research in terms of, what the issue is, and you make a decision that you feel represents the school system and the community in the best way possible. Agreeing to disagree and hearing people's different opinions are good.
Sure.
We want to have a dynamic discussion. We want to hear all the pros and cons of an issue. But, when it comes to your vote, it's, your individual vote in terms of what you feel is the best for the school system. And
So it's kind of following up question. So, for example, we got a lot of 4 to 3 votes or 5 to 2 votes. Does that mean the community actually is a little divided? That's the reality?
I don't. If you have everybody agreeing, is that the right thing too? I don't know. If you have a board that completely agrees with everything, I'm not always sure that's that's the best thing either. I think, and sometimes we're all in different directions. Sometimes it's 3-2, and sometimes you think one person is going to vote one way and they vote another way, and you don't understand. So it varies. I think we all have our certain opinions. We all have our certain backgrounds. We all look at things maybe it's slightly differently, but I think that's healthy. I think that's a healthy discussion. But but you take what you hear, you take what you've learned, you hear the different opinions, and then you make your decision. Not a group's decision. You make your own individual decision as a board member.
Because I'm myself on the CA board, right? So sometimes I'm thinking like, yes, or divided vote or very uniform vote is good or bad. It's kind of really difficult to balance between different topics.
Sure. I mean, there were times when I was on the Board of Education, and it was always 7 people agreeing, and then people were still saying we were rubber stamping, and so I'm not sure that I think if a board member does their due diligence and makes an informed decision, I think that's the most important thing, and they can sleep well at night.
Your turn.
Oh, I do have some questions, but
You want off topic?
yes.
So
please.
how about
I think we're done with the formal interview. Yeah.
Okay. How about I have a closing statement?
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity to communicate with the Chinese community. I appreciate all your questions, and I've been on the board. I think my experience, my ability to work with different communities and people of different backgrounds is one of my strengths. I always put students first in terms of my decision making, and I feel my background as a pediatrician as well gives me knowledge that is valuable for the school system, and I look forward to meeting you in the future, and I hope the Chinese community will vote for me.
Well.
Okay, thank you. Let me stop it first. Hold on, let me stop first.
Okay.